And welcome back to another great edition of Maxin TV. I have an esteemed guest on, David Mignano. If I pronounced that correctly, I hope I did.
It's good enough, Max. I mean, that's honestly how most people say it, so not a problem.
How are you supposed to say it? I should have asked you before the show.
It's totally fine. It's Mignano, but maybe one of 12 people ever get it right. So I think it's kind of just organically transferred to the other way.
Yeah, English was definitely not one of my skills, for sure.
Well, it's an Italian last name, so don't worry about the English part of it.
True. All right. I hear that. I hear that. Well, anyways, David, thank you so much for joining the show.
No, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
For sure. And I know, and you actually shaved to be on this show, so I'm really honored.
I did. I actually, right before we came on, you can see my hair
on a weekend. Yeah, look at that. I mean, like, wow.
Jumped out of the shower. I trimmed up the beard. You know, listen, you're looking so fresh all the time. I can't come on here looking like a slop, at least not like I usually do. You know, I got to.
I've been saying since you've come on my show last time in that Hotel Disruptors that you need to show your face more on camera, not behind the camera.
As the old joke goes, I have a good face for radio.
That's what. Yeah, that's a line I like to tell people as well. Love it. So, anyways, David is, for all those who don't know, he was actually the segment producer of No Vacancy with host Glen Haussman and Anthony Melchiorri, and you have an extensive background in hospitality. So, I guess why don't we first start off with a little bit of how did you get into hospitality to begin with?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, depending on how far you really want to go back, I spent a lot of time in hotels during my younger years for different sports activities. But in terms of the professional capacity, like I think a lot of people would say, I got into hospitality kind of not by force, but by necessity. So I came out of college in 2010, which obviously was a couple years after the recession. And my original goal was to be in radio and television and doing similar stuff that we're doing now. And you can see my hair again, kind of flopping over a little bit. But
well, I'm gonna pick your brain over that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But so I was going to be in hospitality in radio and television. At least that was the plan. My undergrad was in broadcast communications, and I was working a job in the city that I really hated. And again, coming out of 2010, this is about 2012 now. Still not too many, jobs in that industry just yet. And so I needed to find another job. And if you guys can hear my 2-year-old talking in the background, I apologize. But that's the perks, the perils, whatever you want to call it, of working from home. But I got into hotels because I found, a job. I actually had a family member who was in hospitality say, hey, this may be something you like. You like being around people. You traveled a lot. So why don't you give it a shot? So I got into hotels as a part-time night audit at a small extended stay property in New York and kind of rolled along from there. Really found it as something I was enjoying.
So why don't you tell us about how you got involved with No Vacancy? What was your role on the show, and how long have you been doing it for?
So I got with No Vacancy with Glen, I should say, back in 2018, towards the end of 2018. I was working at the time for Marriott as a remote revenue manager. So I was working from home, and whenever I didn't have a call, I would put on either some music or a podcast, just something to listen to while I was working. And I honestly don't even remember how I came across it, but I came across the No Vacancy podcast, which Glen was doing prior to COVID, which is a once a week release. And it was just talking similar to No Vacancy Live, talking to different industry executives about whatever the conversation was about. And I really enjoyed it. And, I really found myself engaged in the content. And then one episode, Glen mentioned he was from the New York area. And so I reached out to him and just said, hey, really love what you're doing. I was in broadcasting or want to get into broadcasting, but now I'm in hotels and I love hotels. And you've kind of combined both passions of mine into one show that I really enjoy. So, hey, if you ever needed any help with anything, let me know. I'd love to be a part of it. And he responded fairly quickly and just said, hey, I'm going to be in Manhattan like a week or two later doing some recordings with Anthony. Why don't you come up and we'll talk and see what we can get done. So we went up there, after they were done recording, me and Glen went out, had some dinner, had some discussions, and basically got involved doing part-time stuff, social media postings, helping him book shows for the podcast. And that was really the extent of it through all of 2019. And then 2020 happened. And, Glen and Anthony do a lot of traveling. They do a lot of speaking and conventions. And then all of that was, pushed back because of COVID, and I was furloughed because of COVID. At this time, they kind of started this daily show, and I said, okay, what can I do since I'm not doing anything for work? What can I do to help you guys out? And that's really how I got involved with them. So I started scheduling guests for the show. Pretty much the same thing, helping develop some of the show content, themes for the shows, and then that was really it. And then fast forward, a few months, and they had a producer who was doing this producing for the show during the show, and he left because he got another job, which is great for him. So I stepped in to help with that as well. So that at that point, I was kind of doing everything, and it just kind of continued to roll along from there. And it's really is one of the best experiences of my life. I really, really enjoy it. Continuing to work with them on the scheduling part of it, but not as in depth on the daily activities, obviously, because I'm at work now. But it really, really helped me get through 2020. And I don't know what I would have done had I not had that to keep me busy and keep me involved and keep me engaged.
It's such a great I feel like you have such an entrepreneurial mindset, because it's such a great that is a skill that someone who's an entrepreneur would actually do. They would be like, hey, I kind of want to get involved with this. I'm going to actually pick up the phone and try to contact this person. Unfortunately, a lot of times, most people just don't have, excuse my French, the balls to do it. You literally did it.
Yeah, that's one thing again, I'm a talker, right? I have no problem. I like talking to people. I like getting out and being involved with really anybody. And so it wasn't, the way I see it, it wasn't much of a risk. The worst that Glenn could do is not answer me back or just say,
Right.
no, I have no need for you. Right.
Right.
So what did I really have to lose? But I understand that, it's not something that a lot of people feel comfortable with. It's essentially kind of a cold call, right? And if you want to look at it from a sales perspective, but those are the types of things I feel that can help people open up more doors, right? Open up a door for me just by saying hello. So I would like to, challenge people out there that maybe do struggle with that. Just try it. Try it with nothing special. Just say hello to somebody randomly that you kind of admire or look up to, or just enjoy their content, and just say hello. And I really enjoy your stuff, and see where it goes from there. You never know.
Listen, having my own show and reaching out to certain people. Listen, I got David Mignano, right? Mignano.
Hey, there it is.
Yeah, I got David Mignano on the show, but overall, a lot of certain people, I definitely were not expecting to say yes, but they kind of surprise you sometimes.
Yeah.
And so what do you got to lose? They're going to tell you no. Okay, great.
Yeah. Listen, that's the same thing that happens when I schedule for No Vacancy, right? A lot of the No Vacancy people we target specifically, but don't have a previous relationship with. You can just reach out and say, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's why we think it's relevant to you. Here's why we want you on. And would you be interested? And some people say no. Some people never respond, but some people say yes. And it becomes these amazing interviews.
It's amazing what you're doing, because this was really your passion. You had a passion for broadcasting network. Now, I don't know networking, but broadcast networking, if that's a word. But to do that, even though you have a full-time job, you've taken this upon yourself to still do in your spare time, just because. So it just goes to show you that you could still, work and still do what you really love, or try to combine both of them at the same time, which you're clearly doing. So that deserves a round of applause for that.
No, thank you. Yeah. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me, it's a nice passion of mine. So
right.
There was no way I was going to let that just go by the wayside. As long as I can do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. But yeah. So getting back more on the hospitality side. So you currently are working in New York City as the director of revenue. You see what's going on there. So currently, why don't you tell everyone exactly what people don't see, or what really is going on? Are things starting to open up? Are people starting to come into the hotel? What really is going on?
It's challenging in New York, right? We were the first city that really went down hard with infection rates and closures and whatnot. And certainly in other areas of the country have come back. We haven't necessarily fully come back yet, but there is definitely positivity in the city right now. Again, my hotel just opened up a couple of days ago, and I was honestly pleasantly surprised at the production that we had. And I think most people would be. The most important thing right now, I think, is people are out. People are getting out. When you go on the streets in the afternoon, you're going home from work, 42nd Street is busy, Times Square is busy. Now, again, it's mostly people from the local market that are probably coming in from the outer boroughs just to get into the city, get out of their apartments or their houses and just enjoy themselves. Travel is still a little bit depressed. I'd say a lot of it depressed. You're still seeing some of these bigger hotels pushing back opening dates because there is still no group business. There's still no citywides. But positive news, recently we heard that the Tribeca Film Festival will be happening in person, I think early June. So that's kind of the first step, right? That's the first national kind of event that New York is going to be having in person. I mean, of course, you have sporting events that have attendees now, but Tribeca Film Festival is that kind of big thing. So I think we're moving in the right direction, but I still think that we have a long way to go because New York is so heavily driven by international travel, major conventions and citywides, and business travel. And none of those three are back just yet.
Yeah. Fortunately or unfortunately, apparently every New Yorker is currently trying to be in Miami right now, which is where I'm from originally. And, I was just down there and it's as if COVID never existed, honestly. Like, businesses are open. It's like nobody cares. But in New York, right, like I'm a big Mets fan. I want to go see my Mets. From what I've heard, I can't get in unless you actually show them proof that you either didn't have COVID or that you got your vaccine, which I did today, actually.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm one step closer to watching my Mets. So have you seen that to be like, if you were, I don't want to get political, but if you were running New York City right now, would you do anything differently? Or would you implement anything specifically to the hospitality space that kind of help them out?
I mean, the question of there being financial support or tax relief or some kind of financial stimulus for the hotel industry has been discussed nationwide, really, but certainly on a city and state level for a long time. And people that are a lot smarter than me can probably comment that on better than I can. And again, the question of what's right, what's wrong, who did right, who did wrong, that's going to be for history to decide, right? Because you have a place like Florida who has done things one way. You have a place like New York and California who have done things other ways. And I think that, just again, seeing kind of the transmission rates, is New York and California doing better than Florida, or is Florida doing better than New York and California? Again, I think that when we look back at things, we can really better assess that. Right now, we're still in the middle of it, right? Or we should say we're in the back nine of it because there's still variants coming out. There's still questions about mask policies and vaccination policies and whatnot. So we won't really get an idea of what quote unquote worked probably 2-3 years from now. We can look back and say, okay, this policy helped. This policy didn't help. We should have done this. We should have done that, because the challenge with COVID is that we're learning on the fly, right? We're all learning as we're going through. So it's really hard to say this was the better option than not right now. So it's hard for me to say New York has or hasn't done a good job. I think it's just they were doing what they thought was best, and we'll find out if that was the best course of action when it's all said and done.
Right, of course. But overall, you do see it improving. You do see that there's increased occupancy rates, or just overall just getting better.
Yeah, I do think it's definitely getting better. Vaccinations in New York are actually going really, really well. The Javits Center especially is pumping out vaccinations like crazy. I get my second Pfizer shot a couple days from now. So I don't know if this is going to probably show after I have that. So I will be fully vaccinated by that point. So yes, there is positive energy. And I think that we're going to see, and just kind of seeing some of the numbers in terms of website views and things like that, I think New York City is going to have a very good end of Q2 into Q3 and definitely Q4.
Yeah, during the height of COVID, I remember there was a listing of an apartment for $10 million, and the apartment was worth $21 million. So obviously that's not, that kind of money I have on hand, but I asked some people, I'm like, if you had the money, would you do it? They were like, well, I don't know. They asked me if I would, and I'll be like, are you kidding me? It's New York City. No matter what happens, it's still New York City. So the point of the matter is that, yes, we went through a tough time, but New York, you can't really screw up with New York City. If they collapse, everybody collapses. I think that's just bottom line, right?
Yeah, New York City is one of the few major premier global cities, right? And the real estate market right now is down. But I was actually just reading an article today, ironically, about New York real estate starting to come back and how there's starting to be bidding wars again for certain locations, and there's starting to be traffic again for people looking for living space in New York City as people get more confident. So the allure of New York is never, I don't think, ever going to go away. And I think we're going to see a lot of this come back. So if you do ever want to live in New York City, this is a great time to get in. I have a friend who just got an apartment right across from Central Park. She walks outside of her building. She's right
Wow.
on Fifth Ave into the park, and she
Ooh.
got it for a price that, I mean, I won't tell her business, but it's a very aggressive price. I'm talking about, it's a price that you probably would pay per month for a house in New Jersey to rent, So let's just say that apartment 2 years ago is probably going to be going for 3-4 times as much as she's paying.
I feel like that's you're getting up to a 10,000 a month type of deal, like in like its prime. I don't know. Maybe I'm high, but I mean,
Yeah, I
near
mean,
Central Park, Fifth Avenue.
I don't know either because I've never ever had an
Fine.
opportunity to look at it myself. But I mean, her apartment again, right on over Central Park. She has a balcony, a pretty good sized balcony,
Wow.
and it's an amazing deal. And I'm really happy she got it. And this is a great time to look. But again, according to the article I read today, I think it was in the Times. It's coming back, and I think it's going to come back aggressively once that bubble kind of bursts, both from a real estate perspective and from a visitor perspective.
Yeah. Speaking of the Times, I have to make it. I have to make it equal. So I read from the Wall Street Journal. In my house, we actually get both. We get the New York Times and Wall Street Journal and Barron's and everything. So I think it was in the Wall Street Journal. They were saying that they're giving businesses 2 years free rent on a 10-year lease. So
Okay.
if that doesn't get businesses to come in, I don't know what will. So I can only see it improving from here, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, again, just reading some stuff, the only thing that could be really an issue would potentially be tax rates. I read an article today that says there's supposed to be some new tax rates coming in for some of the higher earners and higher value companies that are trying to bridge the shortfalls from the last couple of years. Again, I'm not smart enough to know about all that stuff. I'm very
Oh,
focused on
please,
my
you're Dave.
hospitality segment, but that could be an issue. Maybe it won't be. I think, again, New York City, as you said, Max, is always going to be there, and it's always going to be an attraction. It's not going to just go away. So I think it's going to come back very, very strongly.
So let's focus. Let's shift focus a little bit. Have you, over the course of this pandemic, on the overall hospitality? You've been in hospitality for years. You really know what's going on. Has there anything changed that's going to change for good that COVID has affected? Essentially, like has it changed? Has it made hospitality owners or management groups think differently about any specific area about their business moving forward?
I think a lot of it's going to be pushing forward things that were already in place, right? Or things that were already happening. They're just going to be a little more rapid in terms of technology, in terms of protocols and standards. I think it's going to allow hoteliers to find operational efficiencies that maybe they hadn't thought about in the past, right? So one glaring example is, of course, stay over housekeeping service that we've seen stop from at most properties due to COVID. Now, there had been a shift already in travelers not wanting daily service. When I travel, I never get the daily service. I not for any particular reason, not because I don't want somebody in my room. I just, between my wife and the kids, and I just rather leave everything where it is. We'll make sure it's nice and tidy. And then when we leave, you take, get it ready for the next guest. Then obviously COVID changed those protocols organically or naturally. And that could be something that we don't see ever come back, at least in a lot of properties. And I don't think that necessarily is something that's going to be terribly missed either. Now, of course, there still be hotels that have it due to, standards and expectations. But again, that's just something I think that's been pushed forward, but it was already in place. Technological standpoint, right? Check-in, mobile key, all that stuff was already happening. It's just now sped forward a little bit. So I think it's just going to continue that natural evolving of the industry that we had been seeing, just a little more rapid.
Right. Anything specifically that will make your job a little bit easier? Is there something that you wish you could automate potentially, or is there like a certain tech that you essentially could eliminate, human error essentially? If that's a real question.
Um, I think that question's was being asked before COVID, right? Especially in the revenue management discipline, right? Technology is continuing to evolve because the discipline is still very young comparative to other departments in hospitality, right? So there's been a continued evolving of the tech, and I don't want to say the automation, but the automated assistance, right? I don't think we're at a point, and I don't know if we ever will be at a point where revenue management can be completely done autonomously. Uh, but there are systems in place to help out the revenue manager to allow them to focus on the true strategy, right? So instead of having to focus on changing rates every single day for the year, you can focus on more on the strategy of, okay, what's going to be available when and why is it going to be available there, and I'm pacing here. So those are the types of things that help out people in my industry to allow them to maximize their potential and in terms of their profession. So I'm sure there will be certain things that continue to roll out that will make the process more autonomous. But those are questions I think that again have been being asked prior to COVID.
Got you. So, moving forward in the segment, any meaning, what has been your biggest accomplishment so far as there's been a lot of stuff that you were able to accomplish, which is fantastic. What are you most proud of, I would say?
Believe it or not, one of the things I'm most proud of is being able to influence other team members. I know this is going to sound really corny, but I've had several of my team members when I was back in operations that were front desk agents while I was a manager, still a young manager, but a manager, and they've came to me and said, "Hey, I really want to learn more about this, or I want to take my career to this step." And we were able to work together, and their very next job after working with me was getting into a management position. So I've been very fortunate in my career to work for and with people that have been very invested in personal development and career growth, and I've taken it very personally to continue that and pay that forward. And I'm very, very proud that to this point I've been able to do that for several of my team members that I've wanted to go to other levels.
That's fantastic. So you're able to be that leader for some of your team members. Was there anybody that you personally looked up to that kind of helped you develop yourself?
Nobody individually. I have several people that I could comment on. I would say for just knocking through, the first person I ever spoke to about hotels was an amazing lady from Marriott named Janice, who really helped me kind of pave my career path through the industry. All of my GMs, I've been very, very fortunate to have great GMs that I've been able to look up to. Certainly Anthony and Glenn, I look up to them a ton. Anthony, especially from the hotel side, in terms of how he handles his business, how he just really created his brand, and how he really created um, that kind of, what's the word, standard for himself and for his properties. And a lot of times I'll find myself, saying, okay, what would Anthony do in this situation? Because he has shown and proved that he has that attention to detail and he has that knowledge to usually make the right decision. So it's not one individual person, but there are several people that I've encompassed across my path, or I've come across in my path, that I continue to look up to. And there's more that I haven't mentioned, but it's not one person singly.
Yeah, definitely. So for someone watching, what advice would someone who I guess they obviously we all went through COVID. They might not be doing what they really want to do. What's a piece of advice maybe you tell them on, potentially just essentially getting on what you've been able to accomplish and essentially getting to where you want to go?
Be open to anything. Be open to challenge, be open to change. This is different from letting people take advantage of you, but do not be scared to try new things, to work hard. Listen, one of the reasons that I was able to move up as fast as I did was because I did a lot of training and I went to meetings all unpaid. For example, before I got my revenue job with Marriott, the first one, I was an operations manager with Marriott, and I would go to all the revenue meetings and sit in and just be quiet and listen. Uh, talk to people. Talk to people that are in departments you want to know more about. If you're someone who's in operations and you want to learn more about sales, talk to your sales leaders. Understand what they do, why they do it. Ask them to teach you. The cool thing about hotels, at least in my experience, no industry that I've experienced so far has been as willing to be helpful, right? I can't think of anybody I've come across where I've asked them a question. They've been like, "No, I'm not going to help you." Everyone has been so amazing in wanting to develop me. People that I don't know, right? The people that have no reason to care who I am or what I do or why I'm where I am. They've gone out of their way to take time, sit down with me, jump on a call with me, teach me, help me grow. And that's been my entire career. And that kind of goes back into Max, reaching out to people, right? Nobody's going to come to you and say, "Hey, what do you want to do? How can I help you?" Everyone's busy with their own career development, with their own jobs, with their own families. But if you take that step, you go out of your way to say, "Hey, my name is Dave. I want to get into hotels. I want to get into this department. I want to get to this level. Hey, what can I do? How can you help me? Any advice you can give me?" I would say 9 times out of 10, you're going to find someone willing to help you and willing to sit down and talk with you and kind of be a little bit of a mentor for you. But you have to take the step.
That's an unbelievable piece of advice. I personally have actually done that, and I can't tell you how much that works. I would
Yeah.
say, you'd be amazed. It's amazing. Like, yeah, if you want to go into a hospitality business, talk to someone who's in hospitality. What does it take? You want to be a sales leader? Go up to a sales leader. Ask them, "How did you do it?" And they actually, surprisingly, will tell you exactly how they did it. Once again, people love talking about themselves, right?
Yeah. I mean,
So,
listen, we're in hospitality, right? So for us to be in hotels and be in the hospitality industry, we're driven to serve as it is, right? We're just naturally dispositioned for that. People that aren't really that way typically don't last in this business too long. So you're already meeting with people that are interested in just being helpful. So you will be, I mean, I can't express it enough. You'll be surprised at the level you can reach out to. I'm not talking about reaching out to a DOS or reaching out to um, a director of front office, which you should if you want to get into hotels as well. But you could even reach out to executive levels. I've even spoken to some C-level people that you just reach out on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, my name is so and so. I'm really interested in doing so and so. I really, like what you're doing. Any chance you could give me any advice?" And that will just break the conversation right there. Now, again, you don't want to just go in there and say, "Hey, help me out. Thanks." Give them a reason why to help you. Give them the reason to connect with you. Do a little research on them prior to reaching out. How can you connect with them? How can you relate to them? Why should they relate to you? But in terms of the actual reaching out process, you'd be surprised at how easy it is and how well received it is.
yeah, no, that's unbelievable advice. And so, if anyone would want to connect with you, how would they do so? Like, where can they find you?
The best and easiest way is LinkedIn. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will definitely be open to receiving a message and try to help out wherever I can. And if you need someone to practice that initial reach out on, feel free to do it with me. I mean, I'm as laid back, easygoing as a guy as there is. So definitely no worries, no rush to reach out to me, or no problem reaching out to me. Let me be kind of your test run.
Of course. And if you are running a TV show on TV, and you are looking for a host, David is fantastic. You should definitely reach out to him about that as well.
Yeah, and I promise I won't have I have a little more hair gel in my hair than I put in today. I thought I'd be okay between the wet hair from the shower and some gel, but I'm over here having hair flopping everywhere. I'm sorry about that, Max. I'm still not living up to your standard. You're looking fresh
I,
again. I'm over here a mess.
Are you kidding? This is fantastic. Listen, I'm from Miami. You should see the amount of stuff they put in their hair. Holy, and a lot of them bathe in cologne. Apparently, it would be so it's not it's another world down there. It's just different.
Yeah.
But you look fantastic. But I really appreciate you coming on. There's a lot of great pieces of information here. I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch are going to take a lot of it that are essentially priceless. And once again, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, thanks, Max. Really appreciate it.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.